Hey guys, welcome back to Pharaoh Iron and Customs. I'm Michael. We're back in here working on the transmission adapter to put the M5OD-R2 5-speed behind the 8BA flathead. And I'm just going to bring you up to speed on where I'm at right now making this adapter. In the last video we marked where the holes needed to be located to bolt it to the back of the 8BA flathead, and I've made a couple mistakes already that I've got an idea about how I'm going to fix it, but just be aware if you're doing this that these two holes, this hole right here and this hole right here, are going to line up with the two bottom holes. Alright, as I was saying, if you look down in the bell housing, you'll see the overlap of those holes. I don't think you can see that one because there's no light through it, but it is right on the edge of it. I may be able to work that one out. Alright, okay, so and to show you where I knew where to line the pilot, what I did was the pilot on the transmission is 2.90 inches from the center line, and I came here, I don't know if y'all can see, I had scribed the center line from, I figured out what I did was I took I drilled and counterbored these holes on a drill press. I come home and I got, it's a straight fluted reamer that will drill a 3/8 hole perfectly. So I drill that, and I took a bit here with a 3/8 shank and a bit here, and I put my 3/8, I lifted it up and stuck my my straight edge under it and scribed, so I knew where the top of these pilot holes were going to be. Then I went back to the block and I measured to where the bottom of the block was, and I scribed that line. Then I found out how far up from the center line, which is where the bottom of the block is on the flathead, is up 2.90, and that's where how high up the dial pins are in the transmission. So I scribed a line at 2.90 up from the center line, and then I went and found that this hole is 7.74 from the center line, and this hole over here is 7.25 from the center line. So I made those marks, and that's how I know approximately within, you know, the size of that hole, which is a 1/2 inch, so you're talking about 500 thousandths, but I can get it pretty daggone close within a 1/16 of an inch with my eyeball, and that's, we're going to get to in this video, how I'm going to get it, set perfect, and we're going to stake the holes, and then we're going to check it, and they make an offset dial pin. So if I have to get offset dial pins to get it centered up in the bore on that transmission bell housing, we will. But the next thing I need to do is, when I countersunk the holes, I was not able, the countersink bit I had was 3/4, the biggest one I had, and you can see that doesn't go down in there all the way. So I've got another countersink bit that I need to make this hole, and this hole deeper. I'm not going to do this one yet. And this is where I'm going to get into how I screwed up these holes being in the wrong place. If you look on Speedway's site, their AOD adapter shows their adapter they have made for this. And in one of the bolts in their adapter goes here, and the head has been turned down because this hole is also close. So like I said, we're going to get into all that, but I'm going to have these 3 bolts are actually going to hold the plate to the transmission while we're lining everything up. So I need to get out my counter bore bit and cut it deeper, and then I'm going to try to cut a section out, and technically it only needs to be, you know, a 5-inch circle to clear the crankshaft. You can leave all of this mass in here if you like, and you know, I'm gonna see what it's gonna take to cut this. I don't think I have a blade to go in my bandsaw, and my bandsaw, that would not, this chunk of aluminum won't fit in my bandsaw anyway. So really the only thing I have to cut it with is a jigsaw, and I don't know how that's gonna work, so we're gonna find out. All right guys, this is what I got so far. I tried to cut it with my jigsaw, but the clutch is about gone in it, and it's not holding the blade, and it would have taken the entirety of the rest of my life to have tried to cut it with that. So I tried it to start with my metal cutting saw. Guys, that is absolutely scary, and there's no way I would have been able to make, as a matter of fact, you saw I tried to make a cut right there. It's just not going to happen. So what I ended up doing was going in and drilling a bunch of holes, connecting it with the jigsaw, and I can only get this far with my drill press without having to do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back in the drill press, and I'm going to drill as many holes up through here as possible. I'm not going to be able to do this side because I'm going to have to cut this out and this. I'm going outside of the line. I marked around where the bell housing, where I thought it ought to go. So we should have plenty of meat. I'm probably just going to get it close, and we're going to call it good once we get it close. It would really be nice to have a mill to do this and do it accurately, but like I said, I just don't have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill some more holes on this side and get it as far as I can. I'm going to let the metal cutting saw cool, and I'll probably come back tomorrow and try to cut out. I want to try to keep this as close to this shape as I can, so I may end up cutting that with the metal cutting saw and then drilling it part of the way. I don't know. The straight lines are not a problem. It's these, you know, you can't, the metal cutting saw is just like a circular, any kind of circular saw. It's just a 15 amp saw with a metal cutting blade in it. And like I said, it's struggling. It's actually got hot. When I first started cutting, I actually had to stop because the brushes started smoking in it. So, and then I went back and I poured some, I've got some Marvel Mystery Oil in a bottle. I just poured that on there for lubrication. You could probably use, I can't remember what they said to use on aluminum, like something heavy like wax or soap or something. But I also got these pilot holes drilled deeper. I'm leaving this one shallow because it's going to have to be turned down somehow or another. I'm going to have to drill that hole deeper but the same size, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do that because the pilot bit stops drilling once it runs out of pilot. So anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. These bits actually started chattering, and what I ended up doing was throwing the drill in reverse, taking my hand drill and putting it in reverse and smoothing the bores back out, and that turned out pretty decent. So like I said, I'm going to drill some more holes. I'm probably going to stop on this for today. Hopefully the next time that you see this, which should be just a few seconds, you know, I'll have it cut out, and Glenn will hopefully be over here. Somebody will help me get it on the back of the motor and help get it centered up so we can get our pilot dowels made for the transmission. And we'll be back in a little bit. Guys, this is a carnage so far. I finally decided that the saw just wasn't going to do it, so I went ahead and drilled all the holes and cut them. I'm going to have to get, I think what I'm going to use is a one of the grinding discs that have the hole in it, just like these right here, except for I'm probably going to get some 24 grit and plan on keeping an eye, because that will the aluminum will load up those pads, so we're just going to abuse them and be careful and hope they don't kill us. Dear God, that was a pain in the butt. So it's a whole lot lighter now, and like I said, I'm gonna stop right there for today. I did want to go ahead and get it cut down a little bit, and it's done. The hard part's done. Now we just got to shape it up and get it centered up. So like I said, that should happen in the next few minutes. Alright guys, Valerie and I kind of messed with this the other night for about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes or so, and got it to where we're able to check the roundness or the for center. As you can see, the dial indicator is, I think it's about 100 thousandths off, or about 50 thousandths off. It has a variation of 100 thousandths, which means it's about 50 thousandths off from the center, because if you're 50 thousandths off one way, then it's going to show another 50 the other way, if that makes any sense. So I'm waiting on Glenn to show up. I'm going to try to get him to help me get this centered so we can find out where to put the dials. I have a set of, I got to find the other one. I had to go get that one. It fell in the barn when I took them out, and I had to find that one. So we'll find the other one while I'm waiting on Glenn to show up. Glenn's going to help me get this dialed in. We may show you some of that process when he gets here, and then we'll be back. Alright guys, Glenn's been helping me. We got it within 2.5 thousandths. I'm not angry at that. It needs to be within 5. So this is a 1/2 inch hole. We are going to take a 1/2 inch center punch. Hang on, Glenn. We're going to take a 1/2 inch center punch. We want to hit this just as straight as we can. Alright, Glenn, I want you to turn it again and make sure we haven't moved it. We are still within 2.5 thousandths of an inch of being in the center. Alright, hold up. Alright, let's see if we're still in the center. Yeah, it didn't move. Good. Alright guys, so we've got our center punch location ready. I've got a set of factory small block dials. They're not laying up here. They're actually in the that bag of bolts, so I wouldn't lose them. I think it's the same size dial as a Dodge uses. So Ford and Dodge use a 1/2 inch dial. I think Chevrolet is like 5/8 or something like that. I can't remember. But, I mean, you need to know depending on what transmission you were doing. So I'm going to get these put up, and we're going to get them holes drilled, and hopefully we won't need to get adjustable dials to go on that. Alright guys, that's where we punched one mark, and that's where we punched the other one, and we're pretty much in line with where we made the marks for, you know, our lineup marks. All we had to do was get it perfect. Like I said, it's gonna have the transmission canted slightly to the right, probably by 25, maybe a degree or two, which is not gonna hurt anything, because we're gonna have clearance problems with the starter on this side of the block, and that's going to be something else we're going to have to deal with when we get that far along. I mean, I've already got an idea about what needs to be done. As you can see, I had put 3 bolts in. This hole, I didn't want to make the countersink any deeper, because the bolt in the transmission is going to be right here. So I want to get that bolt hole made first. These I shouldn't have countersunk at all, because the bolt holes are actually, I probably shouldn't have even drilled that hole all the way through, to be honest with you. On the Speedway kit, the bolts are literally right on top of each other, and it's only a I think it's 0.6 of an inch, like 600 thousandths of an inch thick is how thick they say their plate is, which is, this is 1 inch, so it's 40 thousandths thinner than this plate is. So anyway, I'm gonna get these holes drilled in, and then we're gonna put the cover back on. Oh, and Maggie and Glenn are playing out there. But I wanted to mention, I did have the clamps at these points and clamp down to simulate the bolts being torqued in these areas. So I'm gonna get these drilled. I'm gonna do that on my drill press. We're gonna do that right now. All right, so what I got going on here is I went in and I got my level and I trammed this in just as good as I can get it. I have reservations about using my drill press to do this with, but you know, it's what I got. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want to drill but halfway through this plate to mount. I don't want to drill but halfway through the plate, a ½ inch, so that the dowel doesn't go but halfway into the plate. So it only goes ½ inch into the plate, so it doesn't push through. But I am going to drill a 1/4 inch hole all the way through the plate. What I'm going to use, because it's you know, not going to wobble off center, is I'm going to use a step bit. And like I said, man, guys, I hate my drill press. I absolutely hate it. I've got to get a better one. So we're just going to drill a pilot hole. And, you know, when we put this back together, you know, it's not really going to be that big of a worry so far as whether or not it's dead in place. You can get 3 different sizes of offset dowel pins to get it lined up. So we're just gonna go for it and hope that we're still within 2.5 thousandths of run out. And if we're not, we'll get some offset dowel pins. So I'm just starting these holes. Like I said, I'm gonna grab my I'm gonna grab a 1/4 inch bit and run all the way through those holes so that I can punch them out from the back side if I have to. And then I need to get my other bit. It's okay guys, I don't know if y'all can see that. It's a 15/32. 16/32 of course will be a ½ inch. So this is a 32nd smaller than a ½ inch. And I'm going to finish the hole off with a straight fluted reamer. They're called a reamer. This is a straight fluted reamer. And that's what I'm going to finish it off to a ½ inch with. So I'm going to get this drilled a 1/4. We'll drill the holes and then we'll come back. Alright guys, she's either there or she ain't there, so we'll find out in a few minutes. Alright guys, we took the little dowels for a little short polish job on the wire wheel. Ooh, they could have been tighter than that. That one is tighter than that. Why was one side tight and the other side was not tight. That's kind of concerning. That one fits really tight. That one slips in. All right, and my phone is raising hell, guys. Let's go see who it is that's trying to dial my digits. All right, I'm gonna set this back up with the clamps on it. And we're going to remeasure our center and see where hopefully we have not moved. All right, guys, I've already turned this a couple of times, so I ain't gonna be surprised at the results. Here we go. We are about 25 thousandths out. So I need to watch a couple of videos, and then we're going to come back. I may go ahead and put bolts in here, figure out where, yeah, because this bolt's going to be weird. The center of this hole is almost in the center of this hole. Oh, let me back it out here so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Oh, Georgia almost came out. This hole is almost in the center of this hole. Let me move this clamp so you can see if you can see it. All right, let's see if we can see any of that. All right, you can see where those holes are about a half a hole off. I'm gonna have to get real creative with that. Hell, I don't know if I'd almost wouldn't mind. I don't know if I wouldn't mind elongating the hole in the bell housing. It wouldn't hurt my feelings, and I don't think it will hurt any at all to elongate the hole in the bell housing to line up with the block. What I had thought about doing was making a stud that was offset. The Speedway kit has a stud that actually goes through the block, and you put a nut on the back side of the block and a nut on the transmission side of the transmission. So this one, we may be able to put studs in that one, because you just can't. I need to get y'all some light, but you just can't see the hole there. This one is supposed to have interference as well. So since we're 25 thousandths out of round, which comes to 12 thousandths, if you figure, 12 and a half on both sides of the center, we'll put it 25 thousandths out, because for it to show 25, that means it's got to be 12 and a half one way, and it's got to be 12 and a half in the same direction up, which is going to make it 25 thousandths out of center, if that makes any sense. So if I'm doing my math right, I think I am. I may not be doing my math right. No, I'm doing my math right, yeah. Because if you move it up, you move this far out of center, and then the other center is going to be double that out on the other side, if that makes any sense, in a perfect circle. Anyway, I'm getting cracked up. Guys, I was really hoping to have this thing wrapped up for this video, so there's going to be one more video on this. I'm not going to be able to make the adapter to adapt the flywheel to the engine. We're going to get into that. I've talked to a machinist about making me an adapter, but I need to figure out exactly how thick that needs to be. We're going to run into some issues with the starter. I mentioned that earlier. Ford has got some kind of weird stuff. They have two different bolt patterns. I think it's 157 teeth and 164 teeth, or 162 teeth. 164 I think is right. And basically the flywheel matches the bell housing. If you have a 157 tooth flywheel, you have to have a 157 tooth bell housing. All right. In the cars, it doesn't matter if it's got a 164 tooth manual or a 164 tooth automatic. the same starter is supposed to work because they're 3/4 of an inch into the back of the transmission. This being the truck, for whatever reason, don't ask me, it's Ford. Alright, a Ford with 164 teeth, I think it's 164, is 3/8. The depth of the tooth is 3/8 of an inch from the back of the front of the transmission housing. So they do make a starter like I want to use on this. It's a little more expensive for a truck. Go figure. Of course, it's more expensive. So, like I said, I hate to leave this video here, but I don't have. I'm going to have to get some offset dowel pins, and that just goes to show you how far off my drill press is. I mean, it put me 25 thousandths of an inch out, or 12 thousandths of an inch out of center, and I'm not real surprised. The other drill press that I used, I had to enlarge these holes in the plate, so it wasn't very accurate either. And I'm thinking the only way you're going to get 100% total accuracy, you'd have to be in a mill, something with some precision bearings, or a much nicer drill press than the one I used that one of my customers let me use their drill press. So and it was a pretty nice drill press, so it just wasn't, it wasn't nice enough. Look at me, I'm sweating. Got stuff all over me. Anyway, so I'm going to cut that one right here. Please come back and see the finale of this. I'm actually, well, I'm kind of disappointed that, because we had it, Glenn and I had it within 2.5 thousandths when we marked the holes, and I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't turn out, but that just goes to show you that you can't just take these punches, line up holes, and drill them out. You've got to be able to go back, and even if I'd been able to mark it out with the blueprints, there's no guarantee that I could have done this 100% accurate with the tools that I have. So, I mean, this is just my trials into building this adapter plate. So, like I said, you guys like and subscribe. We may talk some about the mods next week. I really haven't done a whole lot more to it since last week. I'm planning on, I'm going to stop on this because I got to order those, I've got to order those alignment dials. So I'm going to stop on this, wrap it up, make sure we don't get no junk in the bottom of the engine. I'm actually going to put the oil pan back on it. So, we're going to go from there. And like I said, like and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time.